Guten Tag, you lovely, lovely jublies, and welcome to the first episode of something that I've been wanting to do for a while. And I have yet to decide on a name. So with that being said, what am I doing? Well, this is sort of like a global news segment. And I say segment loosely because it can be quite long. I don't know what a set length is going to be. But, yeah, there's that. So anyway, without further ado, today's date is 8/19/2018. It is currently 8:54 a.m. So, let's see where this thing goes. Our first bit of news comes from Washington, actually. Papa Elon Musk's tunnel boring firm seeks U.S. tariff exemption for Chinese parts. As some of you may know, that coming up in August 23rd, I believe, new tariffs are going to be placed on Chinese imported aluminum, steel, and other parts and other items. And this is going to have a drastic effect on some companies. So, companies such as Tesla Co. and The Boring Company, both owned by Papa Musk, by the way, are seeking exemptions from these tariffs. Let's get right into the article. This is an article done by Reuters, link in the description, as everything else will be. A company owned by Elon Musk that is trying to lower the cost of building high-speed transit tunnels has asked the Trump administration to exempt it from tariffs for some Chinese-made tunnel boring machine components, warning the tariffs could significantly delay a planned tunnel between New York and Washington. So what they are trying to do is create these very high-speed tunnelways, basically, trying to build back up our old tunnel infrastructure. We haven't done much tunneling since, the majority of our underground system has been done. So yeah, there's that. In a July 31st letter posted last week on a government website, the Boring Company asked the U.S. Trade Representative to exempt parts like cutter heads, screw conveyors, and related machinery. Boring seeks limited, and this is a quote, limited parts from China in the near term for use in a small number of tunnel boring machines. End quote. The letter added those parts are, quote, readily available only from China, end quote. And many of you can see where this would be a problem, as the tariffs are supposed to tax on, for some things, as high as 25%, I believe. Don't quote me on that. You're going to have to do some looking in at your own. The company goes on to say the tariff could cause severe economic harm to the company and U.S. interests and could result in a delay of 1 to 2 years in the construction of a proposed Washington to Baltimore tunnel that it plans to eventually extend to New York. Exempting the parts will not harm U.S. industry, the company said, and noted the tunneling is not one of the 10 sectors identified in China's Made in 2025 plan. The company said its business model is predicated upon substantially reducing the cost of tunneling. Musk, who is also executive of Tesla Inc., as you all know, in June proposed building a $1 billion underground transit system in Chicago. The plan would send people from Chicago's downtown Loop District to O'Hare International Airport at 150 miles an hour, 241 kilometers for you people over the pond and up north. The Boring Company has been promoting its plans for tunnels that would allow high-speed travel between cities. The company initially plans to ferry passengers between Washington and Baltimore on autonomous electric vehicles carrying 8 to 16 passengers at 125 to 150 miles per hour, but would not use tracks or railway equipment. Okay. So other companies, including General Motors, have sought exemptions from the new U.S. tariffs imposed on Chinese imports. So, yeah, there's that. I actually like Elon Musk. He's sort of quirky. He's sort of quirky, and he's rich. So, there's that. I also love the company name. 10 out of 10. The Boring Company. Egypt Internet. Sisi, ratifies law tightening control over websites. This is posted on the 18th of August 2018. Egyptian President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi has signed a new law that tightens control over the internet. The legislation on cybercrime means websites can be blocked in Egypt if deemed to constitute a threat to national security or the economy. Anyone found guilty of running or just visiting such sites could face prison or a fine. Authorities say the new measures are needed to tackle instability and terrorism, but human rights groups accuse the government of trying to crush all political dissent in the country, which, based on Egypt's, tendency to crack down on even the basic street peaceful protests, I think this is a more political motivated move. And I wholeheartedly am against such a move. Censorship it's just, there's this one quote that I very much enjoy. The only valid censorship of ideas is the right of people not to listen. No one should have the right to silence somebody just because they don't agree with them. They cannot listen, they can walk away, but that does not mean you can silence somebody just because they're ideals. And no matter what, no matter how demonstrably horrible those ideas are, they're still allowed to say them. They're still allowed to look like a crazy loon. But anyway, let's see. The Cairo-based Association of Freedom of Thought and Expression said more than 500 websites has already been blocked in Egypt prior to the new law being signed. Last month, another bill was passed by Parliament, yet to be approved by President Sisi, that would allow any social media accounts with more than 5,000 followers to be placed under supervision. That doesn't sound dystopian. Correspondents say that the street protests in Egypt are all but banned. The internet has been one of the last forums left for Egyptians to express dissent. Yeah, there you go. Yeah. Those recently arrested include the well-known blogger and rights defender Wael Abbas, Amal Fathi, a political activist, and the wife of the head of the Egyptian Commission for Rights and Freedoms, and the comic Shadi Abu Zaid. This ties into our next... it's just... topics like that just give me a huge amount of frustration, because I greatly oppose censorship in any way, shape, or form. I don't care. If you don't like something, don't listen. Walk away. Don't resort to violence. Don't resort to shadow government tactics to oppress the very people under you. It's... Anyway. This brings me to my next bit. Vietnam. Good morning, Vietnam. Vietnam's government just jailed an activist for 20 years based on his Facebook posts. 20 years for his Facebook posts. Wrap your head around that. Just wrap your head around that. 20 years of his life gone. And this guy looks pretty aged. This is possibly the rest of his life. Because of his Facebook posts. What heinous stuff did he post? Well, we'll get to that. A court in Vietnam Thursday sentenced an environmental campaigner to 20 years in jail for content posted to Facebook, marking a significant escalation in the government's use of social media to crack down on free speech. Yeah. And I'm sorry I'm about to butcher his name. Le Din Luong. That sounds a bit French. Li Din Luong 53, was found guilty of attempting to overthrow the communist government after a trial that lasted just 5 hours. If you're unfamiliar with the justice system anywhere, 5 hours is not long. That was an in and out. The prosecutor claimed Luong was encouraging people to join the pro-democracy group, Viet Thanh, which the government labels a terrorist organization. Yeah. Vietnam isn't exactly one of those places that I'd be looking forward to visit, were I to actually step outside of my nation's borders. Yeah. But anyway, the charges were based on police investigation into Luong's Facebook posts and organizing activity, as well as marking the most severe sentence for national security crimes in Vietnam in many years. The case highlighted a significant shift in how the government is now targeting social media posts to suppress dissenting voices in the one-party state. And it could get much worse. It could get much worse. Surprisingly. At the trial, the prosecution presented in detail the contents of Luong's Facebook videos, comments, and friends list as proof of sweeping national security crimes. Holy shit. This is why I don't go on Facebook usually, but thank you, Zuckerberg. Criminalizing peaceful activism and the use of Facebook is a violation of human rights and civil liberties, and is a sign that the Vietnamese Communist Party is increasingly afraid of peaceful dissent. End quote. Duy Hoang, a spokesman for the Viet Thanh, told Vice News. Human rights organizations also hit out at the sentencing. Amnesty International Director of Global Operations Claire Algar called the charges patently unjust and politically motivated, which I agree with, just flat out. They're cracking down so hard on even the slightest dissent. It's mind-boggling. But I know why. I know why. These people don't exactly like criticism, do they? It sounds like a familiar group of people that we have in the U.S., but that's for another day. While Phil Robertson, the Deputy Asia Director at Human Rights Watch, called the decision absolutely outrageous, adding that locking people up for simply exercising their rights isn't working. No, you're going to come out with more problems than what you're fixing at the moment. Oh, fixing. I'm making big air quotes with that. When this man gets out, if this man gets out, he is going to be 73. 73. That's just depressing. That is very much depressing. He will be out, a disheveled old man, if he makes it. If he makes it. That's just fucked up. And anyway, a proposed new cybersecurity law would force all technology companies such as Google, Twitter, and Facebook to host their data inside the country, which is heinous beyond belief because that would give authorities much greater access to information about its citizens' online activities. And I've heard something similar about, I can't remember which country, either China or Russia, wanted Apple to release and host their data into their country so they could spy on their citizens, basically. It's disgusting, the amount of surveillance. Ugh. And Luong's case highlights that the government is already thinking about using this access. His indictment stated, because the defendant, Li Din Luong, did not confess and data servers of Facebook users are hosted overseas, the investigative body could not confirm the above allegations. This suggests that if the data was hosted inside the country, the authorities would have tried to access Facebook's servers, which I believe wholeheartedly, without a shadow of a doubt, that they would. And they begin prosecuting even more people dissenting against their government. The new law is still being finalized, but last month a group of 17 U.S. lawmakers urged Facebook, Google, and others to resist the proposed new rule. This is a quote, by the way, coming up. This is an air quote. If the Vietnamese government is coercing your companies to aid and abet censorship, this is an issue of concern that needs to be raised diplomatically and at the highest levels, the Congressional Vietnam Caucus said in the letters seen by Vice News. Facebook has not commented on the proposed new legislation, but the Asia Internet Coalition, of which Facebook is a member, has criticized the proposed law and said it is in discussion with the government to amend the bill before it comes into force on January 1st of next year, 2019. Storing data locally is a growing trend in countries across the globe. Nations such as China, Russia, and Brazil already require at least some data to be stored locally, while governments in India, Indonesia, and South Korea are all considering implementing similar restrictions. It's disgusting. It really is. Cases like this guy, this poor man, has his life ruined now. And for the crime of peacefully protesting such heinous things. That makes me sick. This next one comes from Newsweek. Oh, the last one came from Vice, by the way. The Vietnam came from Vice. So, there's that. Okay. American pastor arrested in Uganda on charges of assault in the name of Jesus. We are off to a wonderful, wonderful start. An American pastor was arrested by Ugandan police for allegedly attacking a hotel employee in the name of Jesus on Friday. Jimmy Taylor, a missionary, was seen hitting, slapping, pushing, cursing, and chasing down a staff member of Grand Imperial Hotel in Kampala named Francis on Thursday night. He jumped over the front desk and followed Francis into the lobby area. Francis is then seen sidestepping. Oh, they got CCTV of this, by the way, and they have one guy who hasn't been named yet recording the whole thing. Francis is then seen sidestepping and defending himself from multiple attempts by Taylor to hit him and refusing to engage in violent behavior. A man in blue that intervened was later caught in attempts by Taylor to hit Francis again after being escorted to a distant area in the room, the Ugandan Dispatch reported. A third person that has not been identified to the public filmed the entire incident, who Ugandan police personally thanks in a tweet. See? Twitter. It's good. Social media. Thank you, dude. Thanked in a tweet featuring photos of Taylor being arrested. And this is a quote from Taylor. Get ready. Get ready. Film me. Blank Uganda. I've come to love Uganda. I've come to help Uganda. But Uganda hates Jesus through this son of a blank. He declares to the camera, and the man in blue establishes a physical barrier between Taylor and Francis. Police have since also recovered CCTV recordings of the incident when his effort to embrace the employee mid-insult was turned away. Taylor demands to be obeyed and approaches Francis a second time. He uses the N-word and continues to cuss as Francis tries to leave the room, reaching out to hit him in the back of the head. This is another quote coming up. No, you obey what I say. I don't obey you. Open my blank room now, you blank. Look at me. Look at Christ who died for you. End quote. Taylor shouts at Francis. No information has yet been made public detailing the cost of potential damages Taylor has made to merchandise of the hotel, and the identities of those involved have been kept sealed due to the pending investigation. Taylor, during a line of questioning, confessed to having assaulted the hotel staff and claimed to have a medical condition that causes the violent outbursts. The suspect will be subjected to a medical examination to ascertain the validity of the claim and the nature of the disease, as well as the intended effect of its medication before proceeding with legal action. Ugandans have reached to the incident, citing the actions of Taylor as an instance of white supremacy and racism, as well as religious harassment. One tweet urged authorities to find out which mission Taylor represented and kick them out of the country, according to an African news report. I have one more article, but I think I'll save that for another day, as this is reaching past 30 minutes. So, anyway, what are your thoughts on this new type of content that I'm doing? Is it good, bad? Do you not care? Either way, I'm going to continue. I just, would like to know. But if you did enjoy it, like. If you didn't, dislike, or whatever it is, whatever platform I upload this to, BitChute, YouTube, Minds, Gab. And I will see you later.